Colt Python. All right, welcome back, everybody. It's Saturday morning. Well, Saturday morning for you, not Saturday morning during the course of this show, because we have to actually do a different format right now because I'm actually not really in the studio. Well, we're in the studio doing this, but it's not during the normal time that we do this. Yeah. So I had some things that I had to take care of and be somewhere else. So yes, how dare BATJAC JW not be here for Collector's Radio Show? And that was the option. I thought, well, either that or we're not going to have the show. Well, I thought, and I go, oh, you can hear the comments already. We can't go without the show. So we're doing the show, but we're doing it a little different here. So I can't read any comments because I don't know what they are. So when we get back to the normal program, I'll be able to do that, which I promise you will be very the following should be the following show. So we should be good to go and golden there. But there's some really cool changes happening and things like that. So life is changing and doing different things. So anyway, but I brought out some, just some goodies to talk about and all that, and and going through. I figured we change things up a little bit, and I talk about some stuff. For me, when I was on the island, and when you're on, for some reason, I didn't really. I mean, I had no idea of this until I ventured off, obviously, to somewhere else, to moving off the island. It was really a hard decision to do because you really kind of. It's kind of one of those things where, and I kind of am that person that is like, throw the key in the bucket and take off, kind of thing, So, and I a lot of times, you got to kind of move on from things. You got to realize that maybe this is not for me. And a big reason and a lot of people do, they ask me, they go, why did you move from Hawaii? Why would you do that? Like the land of paradise and all that. A lot of it, when you grow up there, it's different. Yeah, you could say that. It's when you grow up always there and always, you would think, oh, I'd be at the beach every day. Well, you don't. Not when you live there, I guess. Unfortunately for me, in the 80s, my grandparents, my grandma mainly, loved the movie Jaws. Yeah. And I think we wore that video cassette out. That VHS tape was watched constantly, maybe too much. So at a very young age, I was traumatized by sharks, and of course, when you live on an island, that you definitely that becomes a real thing. You read about shark attacks and whatnot, so it literally is like living Jaws for real. So although there's not a man-eater floating around in the ocean nearby, murdering the town folk or anything like that, but there's a lot of limited stuff you can do. There's limited availability, although that is changing. I still talk to some people from back home, and that is changing somewhat. I guess they're getting a little bit more available stuff and whatnot. I guess Amazon is now working on their thing where they're getting Prime a little bit better over there, where they can actually receive things like you do in the lower 48. The biggest also misconception that always happens is I actually was once told on the phone that I do not live in the U.S. when I was living in Hawaii. Obviously, somebody didn't pay attention in, that Hawaii is the 50th state. It's part of the U.S. We used to actually joke about that because we used to get tourists that would come over on the island. Oh, we recently left the States, and we don't even know if we want to go back to the U.S. It's like, well, I hate to tell you, you never left. So, but also being a gun collector over there, and that's where I view myself. I'm a gun collector. That's where I'm in the firearms world. I'm more of the collector. I like the classics. I like the stuff that represents classics, even if it's a remake or a copy of like the Python. You know, it may not be the original 1970s or 60s Python or whatnot, or but you know what? I like it because it's still the Python. It's still made by Colt. It's going to say Python on it. It hasn't dramatically changed. They haven't done anything to it to where it's like grossly different or anything like that. In fact, it's for those of us that you know got to handle one, and I'm very lucky that I own this one. That you know it hasn't changed. I mean, there's nothing on this that is different from the other one. Other than it works better. I know, but you can't. There's a lot of that kind of limitation. For me, as a collector on on the island, you're subjected to just when you want these collectibles, you're just gotta settle for who has what, and they're gonna name their price, and their price are gonna be a lot of times, sometimes skyrocketed, out of control, and you're just gonna wonder, boy, what what? I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I want to spend that kind of money, all that kind of jazz. So that's the reality of it, and that's unfortunate, So, but now that I'm somewhere different, things are different for me, and that's wonderful. It's wonderful. One of the things too, like I've always been. Whenever somebody says, well, it's going to cost this much or whatever, I've always been a creator. A good example for those of you that remember way back when I used to do daily vlogs, and I really would wish I could get back to that, but the realistic part of that was when I was doing those, I guess the opportunity to do it was a lot more realistic. Going to work and stuff, well, it was, I had nobody leaning over my shoulder, saying you got to do this, you got to do that. I didn't have that. I had keys to the place. I opened it up. I sat there and took care of my customers and all that, and I had the ability to just really do whatever I wanted. And that's kind of where I landed with a lot of that stuff, was doing my hobby and, realizing that, wow, I can get paid to do my hobby, and I don't have to, do this other kind of work that I was doing. And so I was very fortunate in doing that. But, going back to getting off track, what I was getting at was I remember, if you guys remember, I ordered a model of the Freddy Krueger glove, and I really was excited about it, got it and everything like that, but when I started looking at it, and I really, enjoyed it, I wanted to get more of them, but I started thinking, can't I build one of these? Can't I actually create one of these? And that's me. That's just kind of how my mind works. I'm like, I want to create this. I want to build this. I want to figure out how to do this. And the minute somebody tells me you can't do it, that's what drives me. That's it. It's full-blown perseverance all the way through. So it leads me to, this is making 1911 grips was certainly on that, on the, scale of things of I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to build 1911 grips. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. A friend of mine I was talking with back on the island, I even brought it up to him. I said, we got to figure out how to do this. And one of the biggest things I couldn't figure out was how to get these holes to pretty much line up pretty identical every time, and that is difficult. When you're trying to do this and trying to get these to line up so they land on the frame the way they're supposed to, and I tell you, trying to drill them out, and these are some of the early ones. I don't know how well you can see that, but that's some of the early ones that I was trying to, figure that out, still trying to mess with that. And they didn't turn out very, very pretty. But, there are certain grips that I really wanted. I really wanted to see those Colt retro kind of brownish orange marbled grips that you saw. I wanted to see those. I wanted my skip checker grips that were costing me a fortune online to find originals, and I have quite a collection of originals now, and I'm really happy, and that's what I used to model mine after, was all those originals. but now I can make my own, and I mean most of the time I rock my own grips on my stuff because that's why I like those unique things. I like the unique grips, and of course everything I like is either I'm way late to the show. It's way I'm born centuries too late, you know, all that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of trying to reach back into the past and pull some threads out that I can still grasp, and pull them back from the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, and you know, all my favorite stuff, where it comes from, all that era of things, you know. So but yeah, but now that I moved from the island and I'm out here, it's different. Their availability is there. If you want something really cool like a Gold Cup 1911, you can go get one. You can go to a shop and find one, and on all that. Although, ironically, when I got one, it ended up not really being what I felt it was all cracked up to be. I really wasn't impressed. But I keep it because of the collection. I keep it because it's part of the collection. It just, you know, it has its place. And you know, this one here is a Mark IV Series 70 Gold Cup that we brought out. Actually, there's a recent video that I've discovered that I put up for you folks. The video is somewhat old, but I was able to put it out there because I had absolutely no idea that it still was out there and existing. So there you have it, and I put it up there for you folks to enjoy. Wow, I have not had this thing out in so long that there is actually a funky thing going on with the grips, right between the grips and the metal right there. I just noticed. So, but you know, I had sold one of these to a gentleman, a decent guy. I mean, we sold and stuff back and forth, and I sold him one of these, and I never actually messed with the thing, but then he told me that it wasn't working. It was jamming all the time, and I said, really? I said, well, what's going on with it? And he showed it to me and everything. Okay, so one of the major issues with these 1911s is, I mean, especially when you're dealing with a lot of this stuff, and I'm not trying to knock some people with hand strength, you can't limp wrist these guns. They just do not. They're not forgiving. They're not like the polymer wonders where you can almost get away with. I mean, they're just. This is the design that you just cannot limp wrist this gun. I noticed that with them, especially some of these older ones like this and all that. I mean, I noticed. In fact, in the video, you'll notice it jam on me. You'll notice a jam occurs on it, and that is actually the jam. I think if I analyzed it correctly in the video, it's from a weak magazine spring, which I since then had replaced. That's how old that video is, by the way. I had replaced a lot of magazine springs in some of my 1911s. I had gotten in trade a couple Wilson Combat magazines. In fact, they were so old they weren't even called Wilson Combat. They were called Wilson and Rogers. If you follow Wilson Combat and read the books and everything like I do, because I'm a little bit of a fanboy of the company, I'll admit that. I got them in a trade, and I didn't think anything of it, but the springs in it were that worn. They were pretty worn. And you know what? Also, the fella I got it from, he may have clipped the springs because I know he had problems with his hand strength, so he may have clipped them just to load them easily. I wouldn't put it past him. So in a nutshell, I ended up replacing those springs, and obviously those mags work fine. Running them through my Wilson all the time. I've got a few of the Wilson magazines, and I've been that's it. I mean, when it comes to 1911 magazines, and to each of their own. But for me, it's a Wilson Combat or it's not. I don't run the magazine at all. When I get 1911s brand new in the box, the first thing I do is chuck the magazines back into the box, store the box, because when I go to sell the pistol, it'll be back all together, and I'll just put the magazines back in there with it. But that's where I'm at with it. I don't even bother with them. So he was telling me it's jamming all the time, and I'm like looking at this magazine he's using, and it's like it's not even. First of all, it's even worse than the standard Colt magazine. It's like a triple K repop magazine, and it's just like that. Those are garbage to begin with. I mean, I've seen them just split right away after using them a couple of times. they're a waste of money. And that's where I've gotten with a lot of these. You end up throwing away so much money on these really crappy other magazines instead of just buying the good ones to begin with. And I mean, for me, I'm Wilson Combat magazines all the way. They're just I just won't mess with any of the other ones. So, but and I'm not saying that I'm like a virtuoso with these things or anything like that. But I have been in and out of them for a while, and I've amassed a collection of them, and I like them a lot. I love the 1911, and I've been tweaking and messing with them so much that there's not much I can't really figure out right away if you're having problems. You're taking the thing to the range, you're getting some kind of jams or stovepipes or whatever. You start analyzing, okay, well, what could it be? You start looking at it. Right away, first thing I would say, magazines. That's why I run the Wilson magazine, so I know, until, unless it was that one where, it was a weak spring or something like that, but for the most part, if you got a really good, up-to-date Wilson magazine, it's a fairly, it's not worn to hell, you can pretty much remove the magazine as a problem. The other problems that could occur, your ejector is screwed up, or your extractor is, lost its tension, or something has happened with it. Those are all things that can happen. This thing is dirty. I haven't cleaned it since I fired it up. Obviously, you can show how much love I give this thing, but that's just the problem with them, and that's just how it goes. And so. And that's the kind of the industry and all that I've decided to be in, which is the firearms stuff. And that is one of my life changes right now, is when I've been out here. So far since I've been out here, I have the majority of the jobs that I've kept and held have all been firearms related. The best one I had to date right now, and I wish things ended up different with it, but the business ended up shutting down. I was working at an indoor range, and that was the funnest job I had out here. It really was. For somebody like me, that was absolutely awesome. But now I'm changing. I had to change from there and go somewhere else, which was kind of, for me, it felt like it was almost a regression, because it felt like, because when I first started doing the gun counter stuff, I was working at a sports authority. Working their gun counter and all that, but of course you're also still dealing in retail to a different extent. Now the gun business or gun shops, and that's what I mean when I mean the gun business or the industry or whatever. I'm not saying I was sitting there on a factory line working for Colt, although that would be absolutely a dream job for me. That's what I mean. I've been working gun counters, being a gun counter guy, because it's fun. I like it, but there's a certain aspect to that I like. I'm very picky about it because I can't just go work for a shop nothing wrong with this stuff, but I can't be there just selling AR-15s and Glocks. It's just not something I'm going to be interested in. It's not something I'm going to enjoy. I have to see the classics. I have to see all that stuff. So I ended up, I think, with the best of all the worlds, and it could be very dangerous. So I ended up working with a shop that's going to be seeing quite a bit of that kind of deal. So we'll see. I have not actually started there yet. That's what by the time all this as time goes, the future radios, I will let you know. That will all transpire in March, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's currently basically leaving a place that I've been at for a year, and been doing a certain type of thing, kind of like the Sports Authority thing. I'm still kind of involved a little bit with some of the ammunition reloading supplies, but it's still trapped in some kind of a retail setting. So. Definitely just, I realized over time it's not for me. I gotta, go back to doing what I was doing. Plus, I left the island, and one of the reasons I left it was to come out here to pursue the gun stuff further and do more with it. And so far I have been doing that, absolutely. Got to do a lot of things that I didn't think I was going to be able to, and experience a lot of things I was going to be able to, and all that. So I'm very happy with that, and I'm going to continue doing that because I have to remember why I was why I jumped on a plane and left my home to begin with and started a new home here. So I have to, I got to remember that and stick with that. And I think that's important in life, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. If you have the goals, you have things that you're going to do, you have to run at them, you have to chase them, and you have to, do it. And don't sacrifice time and life too much doing stuff you don't really want to do, because you only get one life, you only get one chance, and you're not going to get any younger. And that was another thing, was I did not want to be on the island getting older and older and older and not actually going out and doing something or experiencing something entirely different. So that's what's going on. You just you got to realize that the clock is ticking, and the clock is not going to stop. You are on a train going full steam, and your stop is somewhere along that ride. And that train is not, it is going. It is going. And your stop is somewhere. Hopefully you don't know when. So everything you got to do between that time to when that train stops for you and you got to get off. You want to hope that you've done a lot of things and you got to accomplish a lot of things and get out there and do something and be somebody or whatever, that at least to yourself. And so that's it. And that's what I want to try to do. I want to try to get back to what I was really trying to do out here, and hopefully that's the way it is. And a lot of times you got to just take the chance. Sometimes you're literally just throwing, you're just throwing caution in the wind, and you're hoping that when everything goes up, you are going the right direction, and you really don't know. And you got to be able to take that chance and understand that you may make a mistake, and that mistake may be, absolutely horrible. But I've been with jobs where I didn't want to leave the comfort level, and I stayed because it was comfortable, but I wasn't happy, but it was a comfortable living. So you got to realize to fight that. So one of the other things I did, so off of the soapbox or whatever you want to feel about it, but one of the other things I did when it comes to wiping these down, and I wipe these things down differently than other people do, because I am from the island, and old habits die hard, because I have opened up stuff in my safe on the island, and I went, whoa, and it was covered in rust, it was all damaged and broken and all that. So I just have a freak out, thing about that. So what I started doing was I started putting Ballistol in this jar right here. All right. And then I just got myself a regular brush. And I know for some people this is like overkill. But for me, this is what you have to do on the island, and it hasn't failed me yet. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this up a little bit here. And actually, because the insides of this thing was all... I'm going to do a quickie and a quick dirty here, and just kind of get all that soaked down right there, because I don't have time to clean it. What I do, see, on the island we used to have to just put a light a coat of oil on the surface of the metal. And it's no kidding, because I had stuff that I really cared about, and I pulled them back out later, and they were destroyed, full of rust and all that, and I just I have a phobia about that now. So this is what I do, and I use Ballistol, and it has not seemed to hurt anything thus yet, and ever since I started using Ballistol, I haven't had any rust issues, and I've been using it ever since... a subscriber named Bob Hartman sent me a bottle of it to the island because I couldn't get it, and ever since then I've been using that and nothing but that. So, and I have not had rust issues. I have not had any kind of issues with rust on the island. A lot of things rust. Everything's rust on the island, and I have not had that issue out there with Ballistol. Had it with other things. Not saying that Break Free doesn't work, because Break Free is amazing stuff. But Ballistol for me, that's my go-to now. It's been around forever, and I know that there's not going to be any kind of mysterious like, hey, what happened to this? Oh, great, anything like that, because it's been around forever. But that's what I do, clean things up and everything. So anyway, I'll let you get back to your weekend. Thanks for joining me here. I know a little bit of a different format, but we'll be back to the normal program very soon.